Hey, what's up guys? I'm back. I just thought I'd give you a quick update on the charging curve for this car. It's a 2023 Model Y standard range all-wheel drive Austin build with the 4680 cells. So I know that's a handful, but it's the cheapest Model Y you can buy right now. And since I was, I guess, one of the first ones to get one of these for 2023, I thought I'd, continue on these updates to help out some folks who are thinking of buying this particular build. So I've already preconditioned. I just need to step out and plug in the chargers here. I'm at one of the superchargers. I'm away to someplace, and so let me do that first. I'll also include, while we're charging and we're trying to figure out how fast it is and everything, so you don't have to be bored. I did miss a few updates on some of the things I wanted to mention that I didn't mention on the last 2,500 mile update. This is effectively now, let's see, is it under service? It is effectively now almost 3,500 miles. So let's just call it, 3,500 miles. 3,500 mile update. So let me go plug this in. And let's see how fast it charges. It's doing its thing. God, isn't that awesome how fast it is? You guys who are Tesla folks and only been Tesla folks have no idea how spoiled we are with this. Okay, here we go. It's starting to ramp up. Now getting up to 100, 200 kilowatts, 207. There, maybe that's a little bit better. It does start out pretty high, but it tapers off pretty quickly. So 182, 176, it'll do this for a little bit. I'm only gonna really try to stay here for maybe 10-15 minutes or so. But usually, it hovers around 150 kilowatt hours, or sorry, kilowatts of speed. And I think I've noticed it being a little bit slower, actually pretty significantly slower than some of the videos I've seen on the long range version and the performance version. Usually on the performance, this will keep up over 200 for quite a while. But for these 4680 cells, I don't know if they're just throttling it down because they're trying to be more conservative since it's kind of brand new technology or what. But you can kind of see that it's not as fast as I would like it to be. I mean, it's totally adequate for me and what I need it for. And if you're only supercharging, sporadically, then I'm sure it's fine. But it sure would have been nice if that was more around the 250 kilowatts instead of 142. So I'm just gonna, basically come back to this, and I'll give you guys some impressions while we're waiting on the car, and a little bit of a 3,500 mile review. Now that the honeymoon is over, the honeymoon phase of owning this car is over, just to give some folks a reminder, I received this car in very, very early February, like the first week of February, and I ordered it, actually, anyway, I've only had it for a month or two, and basically already have 3,500 miles on it. So I like to think I know this car a little bit better now. Some of the things that I forgot to mention last time in my video, and these are just a bunch of pros and cons, and some of them might be pretty insignificant, but I thought I'd mention it. There's some kind of a noise that's coming somewhere around this general area. It might be coming from maybe somewhere in the back. Oops, pardon my junk. Somewhere around here. And it's someone mentioned on Facebook that they had brought their car in for a recall or some kind of adjustment to one of the springs on the seats, on this bench seat. So maybe that might be where it's coming from. But what it is get back in here because it sounds a little bit better. What it is, and it's now 126 at 23%. It's some kind of like a squeaking noise. Very, you have to kind of listen for it. It's not not a very intrusive kind of a noise. You'd have to listen for it, but it only presents itself, I'd say, around 50 degrees ambient or below. So I found that really interesting, that I did notice that, anything 60 degrees and higher, and it wasn't presenting itself. So I'm not sure if that's, something that can be addressed. It's getting warmer now here in SoCal, so it's kind of been a nothing burger. But every so often, especially during regen or braking, that inertia or that momentum of maybe the seat or something in the structural battery pack or a bolt that's not been torqued correctly or whatever it is, it's making like a creak, creak, like a real mild, real light, like a old door sound. It's really strange. So anyway, oh, we should try to help out this gal here. Let me. Oh, you need to park at another one, and it's gonna be on your other side. Yeah. Okay, poor gal was trying to hook it up on the right side. So anyway, some of the other things on this list is the one part I was a little concerned about with this Model Y was the ground clearance. And to be honest, you want an electric vehicle to be as low to the ground as possible because that's the highest efficiency. But for practical purposes, you want it to be as high as possible. So, you clear like parking blocks, you clear like, smaller obstacles that you don't really have to think about. I mean, I've driven a lowered car since high school, and now that I'm a bit older, I'm kind of sick of it for daily driver purposes. So to be honest, the ground clearance on this and kind of the really high breakover on the front and rear, like that, like the nose is very short like this, and also the rear hangover or breakover angles are pretty extreme. That I've taken this on some mild off-road access roads when I go mountain biking, and by the way, it's now at 111 at 30%. And I've had no issues with clearance at all. It's been great. It's been super awesome. And it's really steep, deep driveways. I can take it pretty much straight on and not have any issues. Also, one of the things that's a benefit with the suspension on this car, I could almost go and hit, not that, I'd want to all the time, but I accidentally sped right through a dip. Here in California, in Southern California, we have a lot of these storm drains that are like dips. Instead of them being underneath the road, they're big dips in the ground, and you really have to slow down for them for most cars. But with the suspension on this car, it's got really good like compression damping, high-speed compression damping, that it pretty much absorbs it really well. So anyway, I thought that was really good. The short wheelbase, so like you can see that Tesla over there, it pretty much has a similar wheelbase to this car, and it allows it to be pretty agile around turns. So I was pretty happy about that. Let's see, one of the things that I really had to get used to coming from a non-Tesla EV person, so you can see that right there is your estimated miles that's left on the charge, right? And right there is a percentage. So what I really had to get used to is on the other EVs that I've had, I've had EVs since 2013, the guessometer for the range left is usually pretty accurate, or you can pretty much estimate your way around it. But with this car, it's like all over the place. So I really kind of stopped using it, and even the older senior Tesla folks have really just said, go based on the percentage of battery left, which is not really that useful because you have to do some mental math. Not a big deal, and you do get used to it, but it's much better and much more convenient to be able to rely on an actual miles indicator. So that's something I've had to get used to, and having to get used to using this graph, which it's actually pretty good. and getting to know how that curve is for trip planning, for example, is quite useful. So I've had to learn how to use that. So you new EV folks, these are some of the tips and tricks that hopefully you can glean from this. And another thing, and I really need to get Android Auto on this car. And let me just a reminder for folks, this Android Auto device, CarLink, is just a POS. Like, don't ever buy it. Everything, the support, everything about it, it's just been terrible. It can sometimes works and it doesn't. I'll do a full video on this and why it's just so bad. I need to really get on that. But I do need to get Waze back in here because I travel enough, and even just this week using the Tesla navigation system and its kind of inability to reroute properly for accidents, it's just not good enough. So I need to get Waze, and I'll probably end up, maybe putting a phone over here or somewhere like that, like some of the other guys do. And the Tesla navigation is kind of okay if you're not in busy metropolitan areas where you need the rerouting feature to be super efficient. Then it's been working fine for me. But if you do rely on not getting stuck in traffic for an additional 20 minutes, then I'll call that person back later. Then you're gonna want something like Waze. Something else I wanted to mention, Autopilot. Someone asked in one of the comments if I could compare Autopilot with Openpilot, the open source software and kind of driver's aid solution from AI. And it's super nuanced that it deserves its own video in and of itself. But just some quick thoughts that come through my mind while it's now at 80, focus, 89 at 42%. Sorry, it's not focusing. Is that Tesla Autopilot, I think net at the end of the day, on balance, it's probably better. It's just, obviously because it's integrated into the car, it's better. It's has better safety features. But where Openpilot excels, and one of the reasons why I'm hesitant to do a full video on this is because I did use the car that I had, which is a Honda Clarity, is not officially supported by AI, so I had to rely on the Discord guys to port it and make modifications, and I picked a specific fork of the code that worked best for me. So it's kind of like not apples to apples, so to speak. But in general, what I found is Openpilot, not Autopilot, but Openpilot stays in its lane and does the lane keeping way smoother and kind of a little bit more confident, inspiring as a driver. Autopilot dances around just a little bit more than Openpilot. So even though Autopilot is really quite good, Openpilot I think is still better on lane keeping. But pretty much everywhere else, like throttle and brake manipulation and basically adjusting the distance between the car in front of you and yourself, Openpilot is superior. The only part about managing the distance between the person in front of you and the rear and yourself that I don't like is, for some reason, in this very specific condition, if you're maybe above 45 miles an hour and somewhere between normal normal freeway cruising, so say 55 to 75, if the person in front of you starts to accelerate, even just moderately, Tesla Autopilot will build a really big gap before it tries to catch up to the next car in front of you. I don't know why that is. In slower speeds, like stop and go traffic, it does a pretty decent job of maintaining the gap in between you and the front car. But for some reason, when you're kind of going a little bit faster, again, when you're at full speed, like 70, 85 miles an hour, it's a non-issue because you kind of want that gap anyway. But when you're in that medium kind of slower freeway speeds, it does leave a huge gap, and I'm always like manipulating the throttle myself just to like catch up with it. So that part's a little bit annoying. But hopefully, those kinds of things will improve as we go. Another thing is seat adjustment. So if you guys have longer legs, I think I have the general kind of leg dimensions as maybe like a 6'2" guy. I would want this to be a little bit longer, maybe like another inch at least, but we can compensate for that by reducing and flattening out all of the lumbar supports. It kind of doesn't push you forward. But I do wish that, and I know most people like this, but in my case, I wish the seat was a little bit lower. Like it's at max like depression or whatnot for this. And the back, because I don't want to be like sucked into it this much because it kind of messes with my back. I want to raise the back and kind of flatten this out a little bit more. But if I do, then I get way over the top and I start, staring at this thing. So I do wish that the seat had a bit more adjustment, but generally I've kind of found a happy medium where I'm comfortable for 2 to 3 hour long stints. Another thing with this one for folks who are new to Tesla but have driven EVs before, especially ones with strong regen, is the regen on at least this Tesla. It's okay. I mean, it's I would say above average, but it certainly could be better. And the reason why I know that is because we just sold our Rivian, and we're gonna wait for the SUV. We had a Rivian R1T, which is the truck, and the regen mapping on that car was fantastic. It's just so good, very predictable, very strong. So the only complaint I have with this car and the regen, and I think this may have happened because they, maybe a few months ago, they took off the features, the regen adjustments, user adjustable regen adjustments. And now I think it's just all automated. By the way, 51% at 73 kilowatts. So that's kind of the charging curve. It's not as fast as I would like it to be. But the regen, what happens with the Teslas, and it's weird too, because I had thought that because this would be an all-wheel drive, it has the permanent magnet motors in the back and the inductive magnet motor in the front. I thought that with all-wheel drive, you'd have more opportunities to strengthen up the regen. But in this car, initial regen, so if you're going, say, freeway speeds, you let off, initially you'll feel a strong regen come on. But it kind of softens up towards the end. So you don't maintain that strong regen all the way through. So you're a little bit having to, in many cases, use the actual friction brakes. So I found myself using the friction brakes on this car way, way, way more than I would in, say, my Rivian. So, I mean, that's okay, but it sure would have been nice to have a little bit slightly stronger regen. Oh, one more thing on this one, the ABS control. So I've driven this now in several rainstorms, and even just on dry pavement as well, and especially off camber weird pavement stuff where it's like dirt on one side and wet on the other or whatnot. The ABS control is really good. It's and the traction control working together, both of those seamless, completely seamless. You don't know when the traction control is coming in, you don't know when ABS is kicking in, and that's how it's supposed to be. But it's actually really quite good. It's almost like motorsport level, so kudos to Tesla on that. One thing I found really cool is the automatic signal cancellation. So with this car, you can turn on the signal light, but because it uses some of its AI or whatnot, and also notices when you're turning the steering wheel, when you get into your other lane, it'll automatically cancel. And the logic that they use for that is pretty dynamic, and it's actually quite good. I'd say 99% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, it does what it's supposed to do, and it just auto cancels. There's little things like that in a daily driver that really makes a difference. I think that's where Tesla kind of excels, in these like smaller driver's aid stuff, and also with safety, of course. And lastly here, because I think I'm pretty much ready to unplug in a little bit, is we are at, sorry for the focus, guys. I don't know why this thing doesn't want to focus. Let's try. There we go. Oh, okay. So we're now at 67 kilowatts, 56%. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the charging curve. It'll maintain it'll maintain above 50 kilowatts all the way through until, if I recall correctly, like 80% or so. I won't be getting up to that high for this charging session, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys. So let's see. The one last thing I wanted to mention, in case you folks were thinking that as you're shopping for this particular build, again, this is the cheapest Model Y you can buy right now. It's the Austin build with the 4680 cells. It has enough speed. I haven't found, if you look through other parts of my channel, I get to drive some fast cars and things. I haven't found the need for more speed in this car. It has plenty of speed when you need it. So even right now, I have it in chill mode. I always drive it in chill mode because I just don't want to waste the tires. The tires are expensive in this car. It's not even about the range is why I'm in chill mode, but it's really about the tires. So even with the even in chill mode, accelerating from a stop, no issue. You have plenty more, and you'll out accelerate pretty much everyone else on the road. That isn't another Tesla with a heavy foot. So where I was really surprised, having been a previous EV owner, is the amount of power and the amount of torque available to you when you're already at high speed. So for example, many EVs, anything from like 15 miles an hour to like 45 miles an hour, they're rocket ships, right? But then they start to lose steam as you gain that speed, and the motors are turning at higher RPMs. You start to basically slow down and lose some of that power at the top end. With this car, it just seems like it can go all the way till it's a speed limiter. So I could easily pass most cars or overtake most cars on the freeway, at 75 miles an hour. And by the time you're done overtaking, you're like, oh crap, I'm 95 or whatever. You're going quite fast. Oh, I have the proof to show that because I have got my first speeding ticket. Yay. Not proud of that, but it is what it is. So I haven't gotten a speeding ticket in like 6 years. But with this car, first 3,500 miles and there you go. So anyway, I think I'm gonna call it. I think that's it's a pretty good 3,500 mile update. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I'll do what I can to respond. All right. Hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye now.